Happy New Year. The team had an off day, but of course, here on RT, we are always on and ready to talk ball. Paul Jones joined with Sherman Hamilton. I'm Savanna Hamilton here with you. Now, the Raptors wrapped up 2020 with their first win at the Amalie Arena last night against the Knicks. Now, I want to talk about it, and specifically the second half, because they played really well. Now, we do have some boards to come up shortly, but for context, the averages were very significant. Now let's break it down real quick. I want to show you guys on the screen here. The column that you see on the left is actually the second half averages over the past 3 games before last night. And the right is the stats from last night's game. Quite the difference. I want to hear both of your thoughts, Jonesy Sherm, on both sides of the ball. Paul Jones, kick us off.
Well, I thought they did a good job in the second half. When you look at what the Raptors have traditionally been able to accomplish, they were always one of the best teams in opponents' field goal percentage, one of the leaders in points allowed. And then last night, they hold the Knicks to only 41 points in the second half. Their defense picks up. They continue to turn the Knicks over. They got good stuff in transition. They didn't always convert, but that'll come around as long as you're playing the defense. And I finally got the feeling last night that the attitude was, well, if we're not going to score, then you're not going to score. And I thought you saw a lot of that manifested in the second half, particularly with the ball pressure. They did a better job rebounding, and it seemed to, as I said, get them turnovers and get them into transition. So it was a good sign. It was a good sign. I liked what the defense was showing, and it looks like they're getting back to maybe some of the principles and applying them in such a way so they can have the same kind of results that they've had in the past.
Well, guys, I think to echo what Jonesy said, the fourth quarter was very impressive by the Raptors. I mean, this was one of the few times this season, practically the first time this season, that we saw the fourth quarter defense and offense be very good. The Raptors shot over 52% from the floor in the fourth quarter, and they held New York to around 27% from the floor. So both sides of the basketball were clicking. And if you're the Raptors, that's kind of what you want to bottle. Now, what I do like about that game was, thanks to Norm Powell, I thought the Raptors got off to a great start in this game, and that's something that in the past they've struggled with. So to see them get off to a great start, the middle still got some work to do, but to finish strong, to me, is how you want to bookend games. Now, there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. They still have to work on some stuff, but it was good to see them start a game well and finish a game well, because we haven't seen them do that this season with any consistency yet.
No, you're totally right. And it's honestly good to just see them get a win and get that monkey off their back and, get that win secured. Now, Nick Nurse, Fred VanVleet, and Norman Powell, they all spoke to media last night during the scrum after the game. Let's hear what they had to say.
I thought our guys did a much better job of attacking, just off the screen and roll, not necessarily to shoot, but to just attack and put some pressure in the paint. And then I thought we were doing a good job of kind of slamming on the brakes, relocating back around behind, firing it back out, those kind of things. And then we'd sneak in a transition bucket here and there. We'd sneak in a layup here and there, maybe a putback, offensive rebound here and there. So that all that stuff contributed, but I thought it was a much more aggressive hit the paint night. I haven't seen the numbers, but it sure felt to me like we were getting in the paint with a much more aggression, strength, and balance tonight than we have been in more occasions. Just much more.
I think we definitely attacked a little bit more tonight. I think sometimes in the flow of the game, you can get caught up in officiating and just the flow. And when you're not getting rewarded for driving in there, sometimes it can take your aggressiveness away. So I think there was certainly some of that in the other games. And teams are giving up a bunch of threes to us, this year for whatever reason. So we've been taking a lot of the shots that were open. And I think tonight we just made a more concerted effort to keep attacking the rim. And we were able to find some success there. It was definitely, I don't know if it was our best offensive performance, but definitely we executed better. We screened harder. We played with more pace. We played with more force. And, I think we just made, a more concerted effort to stick to what we do every day in practice and not just go out there and hoop. So, I was happy with the way that we played on offense tonight.
Just made it an effort to just go out there and play my game, go out there and do what the team always asks me to do, attack. Getting to the rim, reading what their bigs are doing, finishing. If they come over to help, kick out, just letting the game flow and come to me. it's what I did.
Now, both Fred and Norm stepped up in what really did feel like a must-win game. Take a look at these stats real quick. The stats speak for themselves. Let me get the board up here. Here we go. So 25 points for Fred VanVleet, 17 for Norm. Sherm, what did you see from both of these guys that stood out to you?
Well, I thought both of them were aggressive offensively when it came to pursuing shots and attacking the rim and making sure that New York Knicks defense had to respond to dribble penetration. And, that's something that kind of predicates their offense. That's how they build it. The drive and kick game is big in Nick Nurse's offense. And I thought Norm did a great job of condensing the defense. Fred keeping that dribble alive, always getting into the guts of the defense, creating all kinds of defensive rotations on the back end. It really opens up the three-point line, as Nick Nurse was talking about, guys relocating after the dribble penetration. Their defender helps, and now they don't know where their man is. That's how you get the ball moving and get good shots. But I thought Fred was great at it. Norm did a great job. And, you tip your hat to Norm. I mean, he's come off the bench throughout his career, and he's always been a guy who's just provided whatever he needed to provide in any situation. So it was good to see him get jump-started, and Fred is just being Fred. Now he's just got to put games together back-to-back that are like that. He's got a good game, then he has a not-so-good game, then a good game and a not-so-good game. So, but Fred will figure it out. But I thought the whole backcourt, Fred, Kyle, Norm, I thought they were all great against the Knicks.
You touched on it right there, consistency for Fred. However, what was not consistent was actually the starting lineup, which was a 3-guard lineup, which is something that we haven't really seen. Obviously, there's reasons off the court for that. But Jonesy, I want to hear your thoughts on what Fred had to say to media afterwards about the new lineup like that.
I think it was just time. It was time for Norm. It was time for him to play well, and it was just good timing and more opportunity, obviously, with Pascal being out. So I think, anytime Norm plays like above 25 minutes, around that 25, 30-minute range, he usually plays well for us. And the hard part about that is, you got to play well to get those minutes. So, we go through this, often, and it was time for Norm to play well. Kyle's been good for us in every game. I've been up and down a little bit. So it was just good timing, and all three of us just playing off of each other out there. But Norm gave us a great start, especially a good spark to start the game. There's certainly a bunch of excuses to be had, but, there's no growth in making excuses. There's no way to get better that way. And so, like I said, I think the core guys got to continue to raise our level and bring the rest of those guys along with us. But I think for the most part, the new guys haven't been the problem. It's been us and me specifically. So I feel like, we keep continuing to raise our level of play, bring those guys along. It increases the entire team. And you saw tonight a guy like Alex Len step in there and make big shots, make big plays around the rim. That's what we continue to need. So I think when we play well, it instills more confidence in guys and allows them to raise their level, and we got to continue to do that.
Well, Savannah, you wanted me to comment on that. Look, we've talked about it. Perimeter play wins in the NBA. Back in the day, we used to say good guard play and good perimeter play kept you in games. Now, the way the NBA has gone with the advent and the proliferation of the three-point shot, and you heard Sherm talk about Nick's offense, which is predicated on drive, kick, swing, and you need good ball handlers and good perimeter people to do that. 5 guys in double figures last night, 3 of them on the perimeter in Norm, Kyle, and Fred. And I would not be surprised to see that lineup as part of a finishing lineup in games with Pascal and OG. You've got guys who they all defend well. I mean, people look at Fred and Kyle and say they're too small. I don't think I've ever seen 2 guys take it more personally when you go at them trying to take advantage of their size. They do. They take it personally. Fred's one of the leaders in the NBA in deflections, and Norm is just he made his name and achieved his floor time early in his career from playing defense, and the offense has come around. So I like the 3-guard lineup. I like that threesome on the perimeter. They all defend well. They know how to play together. They all have great competitive spirit, and they've all been part of a championship core and understand what to do.
Jones, you made a really great point with saying, like, this is a guard-driven league now. And even, like, the big men that we see, like, they're stretch bigs. They're on the outside of the perimeter as well. You see them popping out, comfortable enough to take the three if it's open as well. So now we got to switch gears. It's going to be a rematch against the Pelicans. You can catch it on 7:30 on Saturday. Hey, you guys are going to be calling the game yourselves, aren't you?
We'll be there as usual.
Okay. Now, guys, break it down to me. We've seen the Pelicans before now, and we lost to them earlier. What can we do that's different that we could secure the dub this time around? Sherman, kick it off for me.
Well, number one, when you look back at that first matchup, we saw that third quarter where Zion Williamson got loose and he started to get out in transition. And I thought the Raptors did a great job in the first half at really keeping him at bay because we know how much of their offense he provides. And once they let him loose, that opens the floor for guys like Brandon Ingram to get going. JJ Redick started to get loose on the perimeter, especially in that third quarter. And that changed the game completely. So I think the Raptors can have the start in the first half they had, but they've got to clean it up more like a finish like they had against the New York Knicks. It's going to be more difficult. It's a bit of a different makeup for the New Orleans Pelicans. But I also think they've got to be in attack mode. I thought they did a good job in terms of making sure that they attacked the New York Knicks and made sure that the guys who were dependent on to score had to play defense. You got to attack Williamson. You got to make sure Ingram is playing defense. JJ Redick is playing defense. All these guys, Bledsoe, all these guys have to play defense, take a little bit of steam out. And I think if they build from their defensive end, I think their offense, the way it clicked against the Knicks in the fourth quarter, has a chance to show up again against New Orleans tomorrow.
Sherman, you make a great point. That game really changed in the third quarter. And you look down at the numbers. We saw the Raptors win the third quarter last night against the Knicks, but going into last night's game, the Raptors were 28th in the NBA in third quarter net efficiency. And it wasn't good. And this is what they've got to sustain. And as you said, Zion Williamson got loose. JJ Redick got loose. Nick Nurse talked about it. We have to know our personnel. A guy like Redick, who's a shooter, we can't let shooters get loose. A guy like Brandon Ingram, you know the spots that he wants to get to. You know what he's trying to do. Make it difficult for him. So I'd like to see the defense pick up. Savannah, when you talk about winning the game, I thought the first half of the New Orleans game, the defense was okay, but it was the offense that really got them going. And then when the offense stalled in the second half, the defense wasn't there to bolster it. So hopefully with what they learned from the Knicks game and the close losses against San Antonio and Philadelphia. And again, these are things that Raptor fans aren't used to seeing. Last year in games that were 3 points winning or losing with a minute to go, Toronto had the best winning percentage in the NBA. So as Sherm said, get off to a good start, hold it together in the second half, and then depend hopefully on your experience and your playmaking with that championship core to make plays down at the end. That to me looks like a formula for beating New Orleans.
Thank you guys so much. We'll be right back with you guys. We're going to head to a conversation I had a little bit earlier on RTX. Joining us on RTX today, we got Ryan McNeill, media guru. Honestly, he's been a veteran for as long as almost I've been alive, dare I say. Ryan, thank you for joining us today. I hate to out you, I know, but you're a part of Athletes Unfiltered, so I'm very looking forward to picking your brain on that as well. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about Raptors with you guys.
And JR Manatad, he's a producer at Sportsnet 590. JR, thank you again also for joining.
Appreciate you having me.
All right, let's get straight to it. I don't want to touch on Pascal and the reasons why he wasn't playing. I want to focus on the rest of the team and how they stepped up in spite of his absence. So, JR, please share your thoughts with me. How did you feel like the guys performed last night?
I mean, we haven't heard this in a long time, but I think with the Raptors, they brought out their next man up mentality with Norman Powell being inserted into the starting lineup. I mean, Norman, a bit of a funk to start the season, right? And this was a game that he needed to bounce back, whether it be coming off the bench or being in the starting lineup. And that's what he did. I mean, with the extra minutes he got, he kept driving to the rim, getting some shots up, shooting up with confidence. I mean, it was a great game for him. And this is the Norman Powell we want to see. And hopefully we will see for the games to come in the new calendar year. I mean, I'm glad that the Raptors got the win in the absence of Pascal Siakam, but hopefully in the next game, when Pascal Siakam does come back, we get a win with him as well.
And what do you think, Ryan?
just building on that, Norm Powell led the team in plus minus and plus 28. His energy was fantastic. Defensively is what caught my attention, holding the Knicks to under 37% from the field. And then Knicks went 3 of 36 from beyond the arc. So you had great perimeter defense. You had not a lot of second shots. Just that defensive intensity and focus was fantastic to see.
For sure. And now let's switch gears a little bit. Josh Bloomberg from TSN, he tweeted a couple of days ago saying, hey, the Raptors aren't going down 0-3. And I personally do think that just because at the time when the record was 0-3, of course the losses are kind of exaggerated. They don't have a win under their belt yet, but that all changed last night, of course. And I'll talk about it. How surprised were you, though, that the fans, how they reacted to the record at the beginning of the season? Ryan, start us off.
I'm surprised because even the fans forget sometimes that athletes are humans first and foremost. And as a society, we've gone through so much with COVID. If you look at what the Raptors have gone through, the Orlando bubble, a quick little regroup with some family, and then they're in Tampa. So these players like Kyle Lowry who have kids and wives, you're trying to get your living arrangements, your education stuff set up. And then it's a short training camp on top of that. So these players, much like everyone in society, have had to deal with so much. And I think just having everything they're dealing with off the court and on the court, it's a lot. And I'm a little disappointed maybe that fans lose track of that.
JR?
This is a team that's playing for a city and a country, and they're not even playing in that city or country. There's a lot going on in this world. I mean, the Raptors, yes, we have expectations for this team. We have expectations for Aaron Baines, Alex Len, Chris Boucher to fill the void that Serge Ibaka and Marcus Hall have left us. Expectations for Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet to take their next game to another level to help this team win games and bring this team back into the playoffs. It's sad. I'm a little surprised, but then again, I'm just very disappointed in a part of our fan base that I shouldn't really call them part of our Raptors fan base, that they slander Pascal Siakam after the bubble. They've slandered Norm Powell and how he performed to start the season. Hopefully that stuff changes, and we do support our team down south in Tampa, Florida.
You guys both brought up some really great points. Ryan, with you saying that, hey, these guys are still human. There's still adjustments being made. This is 2020. It was a crazy, crazy year. So of course, with the adjustments maybe being a whole new arena, like you said, living situation. Of course, that could play not only on your performance on the court, but also off the court, mentally and everything as well. And also, JR, like you said, we got some new bodies over the summertime, and of course, it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust and get used to that as well. Now, switching gears a little bit more, JR, kick us off. What is your Raptors New Year's resolution?
I mean, there's been projections about how our Raptors are going to finish in the East. They've said that they might be a mid-tier team finishing 5-6 in the East, or even the bottom of the playoffs. I know that the Eastern Conference is a stacked conference. I believe that the Brooklyn Nets are the top team in the East, but I think that the Toronto Raptors can aim for that number 2 or 3 seed. And hopefully in the new year, we get to see our team play in Toronto sooner than later.
Okay, 2 or 3 seed. I think I'm with you with the 3 seed for sure, but we'll see. I would love to see them number 1 in the East. Ryan, sure. What do you think?
I'm going a different direction in that since winning the championship, they've lost a lot of key players that were part of that team culture, that team identity. Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, then last summer, Serge and Marc Gasol. I only see them get their team identity back. I don't know if confidence is the right word, but listening to the Steam Room with Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley this summer, Masai Ujiri was on there talking about just the mental health aspect that some of the players have gone through, in particular Pascal. I want them to feel confident again. I want this team to really just gel and be that defensive powerhouse that they have been at stages over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, defensive powerhouse is what they've always had their identity, like you said, over the past 2 seasons. So I hope that see that continued throughout this season as well. We do have to go. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on RTX, and hope to have you guys back soon.
Thanks, Savannah.
Take care, guys. 2020 has been quite the year, and actually for the Raptors, there's been a lot of highlights. Like Kyle Lowry became the franchise leader in assists. There's been franchise record of 15 consecutive wins and then some. And what's not on the board is also the fact that we locked down OG and Fred, and the Raptors headed down to Tampa, for a new location for the team. However, the biggest moment that stood out to me is not just one singular moment, but of course, how they led the conversation with BLM and the movement. Guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on how they went about that, and what do you think? And also, what was an important moment to you as well? Jones, you kick us off.
Well, I think you're right, Savannah. Like, when I think back of this year, 2020, especially when it relates to the NBA, it's the social consciousness of the league, which is 78% African American, and they're the majority of the people taking the brunt of what America is handing out in the wrong way. And I thought the Raptors made strong statements when they appeared at the bubble with their buses, with Black Lives Matter on their buses. I thought, before the Milwaukee Bucks decided they would sit out and basically default the game and not play the game in protest after the shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a day before that, Fred VanVleet stood in front of the media and said, "I'm not sure we should be playing, and I'm going to play. I understand we have to play, or we're thinking about playing, but there's more to this." And basketball being used as a means to an end, as a forum to help push social justice along, that's what will stand out most for me, with LeBron James and a lot of the star athletes helping to register voters. Let's face it, if the voters in the inner city aren't registered, we may not have a change in the White House the way we had it. And I trace that back to the NBA, and even drill down further to some of the stuff that the Toronto Raptors did to jumpstart that, Sherm.
Well, I think, when you look at the bubble and the situation in terms of social justice, there's no question that the Raptors really took charge and took the lead in that bubble. And it was great to see. I think what we saw was not only the imaging and the things on the jerseys and the shirts and on the court, but it was the conversation. It was the things that were being said. It was the constant reminders and continuing to put it in everybody's face that this is something that even we privileged athletes with lots of money, we feel strongly about this, because if it's not for our money and our athleticism, we could be one of those people on the road there, and we could be one of those people that we're talking about. So I just love the commitment to that. Now, looking forward this season, it's gotten a bit quiet. I'd like to see that pick up again and see that conversation get even louder and not get forgotten. So it was a positive then. I want to see them continue to make it a positive this season as well.
Absolutely, guys. And what I really liked about what the Raptors did as well, the fact that they challenged us, the media, to keep that conversation going. And I hope that we continue to do a good job in this new year. Speaking of which, Happy New Year. We got to go. Catch you guys next time.